hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
How's it going?
Yeah. Let's get at this, guys. Welcome on in. It is officially it's postseason, everybody. This is a postseason edition of Around the UFL. Welcoming you on in. It is a day after the inaugural UFL Championship game. We got a lot to talk about today, and we're glad to have you on board discussing it as well. And we've seen plenty of the discussion online already. Trust me, there's going to be all the big points we'll talk about. We're going to have some debates that we've been bubbling under the surface on Discord or here. Don't worry. It's going to be a lot of fun and exciting show. And I think a lot of big topics to talk about today, gentlemen, that we will be trying our best to break down and or debate today about what happened yesterday evening over in St. Louis off the Mississippi River. I am Zach Kyleman hosting this week, bringing you guys into our wonderful show. If this is the first time, welcome aboard. This is Around the UFL. And let's get it all around the horn. On my right side of the camera here, I got my usual suspect and co-host partner in crime, the summer stock co-host himself over there, the man who could be officiating sometimes if he found his way on the field. It is the ref himself. Good sir. We both had trips today. Oh, well, several of us had trips today, actually. Let me not just limit it to us. I understand you made it back up north, I take it, right? Because you were going northbound. I was going eastbound to Indiana.
We did it. We made it. I couldn't believe it. And I think we actually made it the same day. I didn't think we would get there, but we got here at like 11:56. So that counts. I'll take it. And if anybody was wondering what I was doing, I was just taking some notes in my trusty binder here because, man, I got some things to talk about. I feel like I might be a certain good luck charm. And you know what? Where I thought gifts were due before, things are going to be really good for me next time I go where we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, I know for a fact from pre-show in here, on our Discord, on X, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be debated today, I think, and some hot takes today you're going to want to stick around for that are going to be some good conversation. Speaking of which, we got a guy who not only was at the game, but's on the field, our trusty everyman, I would say at this point. I could name it as you want. Our Schefter our editor, our photographer extraordinaire. It is James Larson, buddy. Good to see you. I hope the camera equipment didn't wear out your back. I mean, a lot of people don't realize you got like almost like a turtle shell of equipment you bring to every one of these games, and I mean, it's a commitment, man. That's a commitment to do that.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, at least I'm not walking around with my backpack on during the game. But yeah, it's a trip, and I, to make sure I had parking in a relatively safe area in St. Louis inside a parking garage. I was like 8 blocks away, so that was a walk. That was a trek. But outside of that, no, man, it was great. Little bit tired, not gonna lie, after driving all the way back to Michigan straight after the game. So I apologize for the slightly lower energy today, but that's all right, man. It's the post-championship high, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, you're lugging around equipment, not to mention, like you just talked about, you're talking about all-night trip and getting back to where you need to go, up north.
I don't know how I pulled that off. No coffee, no energy drinks. Just, what I did actually is the last couple hours, and my eyes were starting to kind of tweak out a little bit, and I needed something to keep me entertained. Is I just threw on the summer stock replay and threw it on my dashboard and just let myself be entertained as I drove through those Indiana and Ohio highways. And let me tell you, if you haven't rewatched it, it's definitely worth a rerun.
That one, I was so all over the place, and the gimbal was all over the place. That is, I haven't done that myself. I'm doing that tonight. That's on my docket. Jesus, that was an event. Last person who was, speaking of which, who was at the event as well. We got Mr. Ducky rounding out underneath, going clockwise here. I'm, by the way, glad to have once again another amazing edition of the collectible cards. Good edition this year, sir. Rare exclusives, by the way. We got talking. Speaking of which, we got your collection. We got to talk about the overall earnings at some point here next show on UFL Podcast, because some people are going to be ducking legends here with some of this new merch and helping feed America.
Yeah, that's always good.
Did you make it home safe, by the way? I need to ask you.
Yeah, I've got all my limbs, everything. I made it out of St. Louis.
Very good. Very good.
I wasn't going to, but I did.
Look, no ambulances. That's all we know.
Yeah.
brings a smile to my face. Finally, we got Nick. Nick, how's it going, bud? I know a little bit of a distance here. It's funny, the odd man out when it comes to being in person, but you get more of the broadcast angle. I did get to catch up a little bit with the condensed version of it, but you at least get the broadcast angle of the analysis, the overhead with the sprinkles of analytics from Joel Klatt and company to talk about today.
Yeah, I got to see Tom Brady's, booth debut and some other cool stuff that was unique to that. But yeah, no, I traveled far from my living room over to here to be here with you guys. I just sacrificed everything to be on this show this week. So,
the trip for the Mecca, if you will, to the TV. It's quite perilous. Be careful.
Yeah. You can get lost,
Fridges, I mean, who knows what's in that thing?
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a great show to talk about, and honestly, we're mainly going to talk everything and anything championship game, and I think also I do want to, at least myself, and I think others here, just the legacy of the Stallions as a organization in general. But quick thoughts, and let's go around the horn here. Just quick thoughts on the game itself, and there's plenty of ways we can go with this. I'm free to start in on this conversation because it's going to go anywhere and everywhere. I know a few people already have some stuff loaded to get the chat running and to get us already reacting to it. So fire away, please.
I'll just start with this because you were there with me, Zachy boy. We were doing Summer Stock Tailgate Edition. We were out talking to the fans, and it was a pretty clear line. If you were there for the Brahmas, you were picking the Brahmas. If you were there for the Stallions, you were picking the Stallions. But I did ask everybody.
Obviously.
I did ask everybody. Do you think it's going to be a blowout? Or do you think it's going to be a close game? And every one of them said they thought it was going to be a close game. And we watched the first quarter, 0-0. We watched the second quarter, almost 0-0. The Stallions scored near the end of that second quarter. And I remember, Ducky, you were sitting near me, and I said, if the Stallions can keep this game close in the first half, at least within one score, and that was even giving them the Brahmas the benefit of the doubt that they could get the lead there, right? But I said if the Stallions can keep it close, they're going to win this game. What happened in the second? They did what the Stallions do. They adjusted. They found everything that the Brahmas were doing and found a way around it. They saw everything that was happening to them from the Brahmas defense and found a way to get around that. And we saw a completely different Stallions team seemingly in the second half, whereas the Brahmas, and Zach, I know you're going to go into detail on this a little bit more because I saw you mention it. We saw no adjustments seemingly on the Brahmas side, and that ultimately sealed their fate. Did I think they were going to get shut out? Even on my best day, I wouldn't have said I think they're going to get shut out. But damn it, they did. Damn it, they did.
Still shocking. I'm going to hold myself because I can go on a rant too, and I want to give everyone else the panel since I'm leading the way this week hosting-wise. But I do think it's a good point to hop in on. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody here. I didn't see any game adjustment second half that looked anything different than what came out first half from A.J. Smith's offense. Correct me if I'm wrong. Saw a lot of the same.
Zach, I think you were the first to say it. I think he just kind of caught the Bruce Gradkowski bug after being there at the Dome for a couple of weeks. It happens. It's pretty contagious in offensive coordinators, I'm told, per sources. He just came down with something at the Dome. I guess the good old Gradkowski virus, and here they are with a goose egg in the biggest game of the year.
I'll jump in here and I'll say, as far as adjustments go, obviously we'll get into it. I think this was one of the worst coaching jobs. Obviously, it's the only shutout of the season. You have so much talent on that offense. A lot of this falls on A.J. Smith, but to give him the benefit of the doubt on adjustments, it's pretty tough when you go into the locker room down 8-0. Your defense gets dog walked. It's 16-0. And then it's like the first play, you fumble, they get it back, they score again. And then all of a sudden you're down 3 scores, and then you have to go into catch-up mode. Their game plan was already like dink and dunk them with short passes, which was basically what they had to do anyway to keep up. They couldn't commit to the run anymore. They were down 22-0 at that point. So I don't, it's tough to say with that. What happens in a perfect world? Let's say the Stallions get stopped and the Brahmas get the ball back and it's 8-0 and they feel like they're not behind at all. Maybe there were some changes that were planned that instantly got thrown out the window. You'll never know. But obviously you should never be putting yourself in that situation because you should be scoring points in the first half. So I'm not trying to defend him here, but I don't think that was going to change anything. I don't think there's any halftime adjustments they could have made to make this any better, really.
And to be fair, that fumble right after they get dog walked in the second half, John Trey Kirkland with the loose grip and the inside grip in particular, Joel Klatt pointing that on the broadcast, watch that on the condensed version after the game. And he's right, it was something they exploited in the first half and they kept going at him. Sure enough, first play in their second half and just bad timing all around. And credit, timing when it comes to how you want to run your offensive scheme does hurt. But something that stuck out to me, and I'll feel free to anyone jump in here on this, I think the Brahmas, the way I was looking at it, you open up that intermediate and more second level in the middle if you can get the defense, if you can get Blevins to creep his defense up to stop with the outside motion and quick out routes to the sideline. And it just never happened. What happened was they basically played chicken. The linebackers stayed where they needed to stay, and they basically bet on, okay, we're going to beat you with speed on the outside and stop you from going outside. And if there's nothing on the outside and you're getting guys tackled and quickly down and you can't get upfield in the second level and you can't get a run game, where are you going on your offense? Because AJ relies so much on the motion to open up the rest of the levels on the passing game, it just never opened up.
And I think back to a play, I think it was in the second quarter off the top of my head, of John Trey Kirkland being open on a go route and not being able to bring it down. And you think of if he catches that, they are put in field goal range. They're definitely, not getting goose egged at that point. I mean, it's Ryan Santoso, so maybe not, but certainly they get some momentum.
Ryan Santoso, no, my homeboy.
Oh no!
And so, but either way, you're getting some momentum there that they just never really found. It felt like they were wading through quicksand, which is inexcusable. I know there was injuries, Kirkland and Lovett being out for most of the game. but brutal. But I yeah, that completely threw me off there. Sorry. So they had injuries there, but that's no excuse. They still have good depth. They, the fact that it felt like they couldn't get anything going with the amount of talent they have on offense is just ridiculous. They still have, with two of their top players out, they still have two guys I think are going to the NFL that they can target. Like, what happened? Why did that never come to fruition?
Hard to say.
Speaking of NFL, go on.
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to bring up the Chase Garbers thing. I know there's been some talk online on, did he, didn't he, try to protect himself because he potentially has a look coming up. And so, I'm curious what everyone's thoughts here. Now, I don't want to go full on rumor mill because it's hard to get in the mind of a player in the game. We're just sitting from the sidelines, right? So there might have been something he saw there. And at the end of the day, you don't really want to injure yourself, whether you're potentially going to the NFL or not. But I'm curious what everyone's thoughts here on it, like good thing, bad thing from his perspective, or do you even think that was something and it might be being blown out of proportion?
To me, it looked like he was just disconnected from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Like, there was miscommunication. Like, this game was so sloppy in so many ways, shapes, and forms. Chase, to me, it looked like he, early on, like him and AJ just were not on the same page. They kept having to call timeouts. There was communication issues, I know, with some of the headsets, but like Chase was just lethargic. Like, there was a delay of game penalty that really hurt their drive early on in that first half. And like, again, it goes back to him running out of bounds early when he could have picked up the first down. He just kind of, I don't know why. Like, the defender wasn't even there. The Brahmas blocker was in position. Chase could have just reached the ball across and picked up the first down. He doesn't. Then it's 3rd and 1, and then all of a sudden you have a 3rd and 6 because of the delayed game. To me, it just looked like Garbers mentally was checked out, which is really strange after someone like him who has had a good season. He fought back to get back early from injury, and he played a really good football game last week in the win over St. Louis. So to see him just so out of sync, it was strange because Birmingham's defense obviously played phenomenal, but it looked like Garbers wasn't even engaged from the first snap.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think the comparison here is Ben DiNucci in the playoffs last year in the XFL. I don't know if anyone particularly remembers this, but DiNucci had that Denver thing lined up. They had mentioned that he went directly from Arlington to Denver right after to go participate in rookie minicamp, and yet in his playoff game he got blown out. And that last drive, he says, okay, we need to get one more drive because this is our last drive, last chance to get film on, deck. And he had everything, like he was going to get the Denver spot either way at that point. And it just shows you like the leadership of like, I want my guys to have to finish the season on a strong note. Even if we're going to lose, we're going to go down, we're going to score a final touchdown and get one last good drive in. And it felt like even when the game was still in hand, Garbers was looking beyond today, And it's to the point where, like, spoiler alert, I've been posting these articles on, how I rank guys. I dropped Garbers down a tier. And it's partially because, like, he didn't play that great, and he's already been kind of a tweener guy anyway between these two tiers. But it's like, you look at that, and it's like, do I think NFL team's going to look at that kind of stuff and go, like, yeah, this is a guy we definitely want in our camp? Or, maybe he still gets shots and maybe it's all fine and whatever, and he never plays in spring football again. But that's a tough final look. It's hard to get that taste out of your mouth, especially on the other side. You see Martinez, who struggled for a few weeks. It wasn't perfect, but he had at least, 3 touchdown game. He had some positive things go for him, and he gave a good final note. And Garbers just did not do that, even going beyond the fact that I think AJ Smith set him up to fail. It's like the posture was all wrong. He was complaining about the run pass ratio on the sideline. It just felt like his head just wasn't, it wasn't about winning. It felt like he was just all frustration there.
I think it even goes beyond Garbers. I do want to get to one point on a specific player I noticed was not having a great day. But look, my thing on Chase, if I were to compare this to anything in this world that is football related, it almost reminded me of the scene in The Longest Yard, Paul Crewe, the first few series in the second half, where he's like, you know what, I got something else that I'm going to be slowing down for a little. And look, rumor mill. I'm not going to go beyond that. It just the way it went, that final slide, and I'll be honest with you, and I don't know, Ref or James or Ducky, if you noticed the sideline like it was shown on the broadcast, because like after the game, watch the condensed version, you could clearly tell the sideline interaction. Everyone was completely against Garbers as soon as that drive ended. It was a complete frenzy on the sideline. So I didn't notice because at the time I'm talking with my folks here, and we're sitting at 300 levels, and both me and my dad are going, "Whoa, that was completely early." And then you have to focus on the fourth down call, which the fourth down call, go figure, it's a route out to the outside, hoping that Elise Mack's going to beat his defender. He doesn't. And you just wonder what could have happened. It's just a classic part of the day. But you don't see that unless you're only looking at that sideline in the game. And that whole thing completely lost any confidence or any morale that was towards his way. Like 10 weeks never existed at all, But what can you do? You have a performance like that, and you show a little effort like that, especially a play where you can tell he had room to get there, and he just kind of was worried more about the contact. And credit, you got to protect your body, and there's more on the line if you got an NFL opportunity. But losing the locker room, that's not a good look. Some coaches do look at that type of play. Locker room cancers is a bad term to have, and I'm not saying that's the case, but that's a bad morale thing if you have something like that.
Now, I can't put all the blame on Chase Garbers because he was working against immense powers that were always going to have a stronger force at the end of the day. Because I think what we've stumbled upon, Zach, is, well, we already know that ref's law is 100% this year, 100% last year. We're going to get there. And 90% season one. Ref's law. But what we've never had ref's law in the playoffs. I mean, you could count, both the Panthers and the Houston team haven't won in the playoffs, but that's not what I'm getting at here. There's a couple things. One, I'm basically, as my title states here, a good luck charm for the Stallions. I can't name one time that I've been at a game that the Stallions have played that they've lost, including all three of their championships. So you're welcome. Now, the other piece is, we were talking about this in summer stock when we were making our predictions. I went back and I said, let me see, who did I predict year one? Who did I predict year two? And that helped me pick out who I was going to predict year three, because as we discussed during summer stock 3, which if you haven't watched it, watch the replay. It's evergreen. It's fun. It's a party. It's a party in the parking lot like we always wanted it to be. But we figured out, year one, I picked the Stars. Who won? The Stallions. Year two, I picked the Stallions, or not the Stallions. I picked the Maulers. Who won? The Stallions. So, of course, who am I going to pick year three? I picked the Brahmas, and that was by design. So for any of the Stallions fans that are angry, I did you a solid there, because, Zach, you knew it as I was saying. You could see the twinkle in my eye as it was coming out. I was saying Brahma, but my body language was saying Stallions, baby.
This isn't about ref's law. I know exactly what this is about. This is about you to get a ban lifted by a few select Stallions fans because they still are going after you right now.
Me and 205 Live, dude, him and there's a couple of those guys. I'm telling you, when I come out to Birmingham next time, we're going to go out. We're going to go to all the places. We're going to start at Eugene's so we can settle a baseline. And then you can take me out to all of these places that are more Birmingham food than Eugene's. I've tried the Hattie B's. We've been there. Take me. Is there like a barbecue pit with like a can of beans ready to go? Sign me up. Is there some kind of drive-through spot that all the Birmingham folks go to? I'm there. I saw the gas station restaurant. Sign me up. Let's go. So me, 205 Live,
Stevie T.
Boy, Stevie T. That was the other one I was thinking of. We're ready. And again, I'm looking at this as we're just having bants online. If you guys aren't having bants online, I feel bad. But once we get out into Birmingham, and you know what? It'll be like a good, like one of those olive leaf moments. I'll bring you some Texas barbecue. I'll bring it like in a basket with some Stallions memorabilia just so you feel comfortable eating it. We'll bring some brisket. We'll bring some pulled pork. I'll even bring you some Dr. Pepper because that is, as we all know, a Texas classic. And then boom, we're gonna be like the new Pilgrims. We're gonna start a new Thanksgiving. It's gonna be awesome.
Very nice. We'll talk this off season. We'll bring the proposal this off season. But back to the game. And James, I'd love to hear. I want to hear some more thoughts on here because overall, I mean, I think Garber's thing was beaten to death. Now, overall, the game though.
I have some thoughts on the game. I thought this was like a worst case scenario for the league of how everything played out the last couple weeks. And this was nothing that was in the league's control. So I want to be very clear that I'm not blaming the league for what I'm about to say. But down the stretch of a season where it has been an incredible year of football, like the UFL, what they've accomplished this season, the talent on the field, every single game for the most part, unless like Memphis or maybe Houston was involved, most of them were very competitive. And even then, at least Memphis and Houston were competitive on occasion, but that's besides the point. The football and the product was by far the best we've seen in spring football, I'd say, since the XFL in 2020. Like, it was very, very good, and quite possibly could be the best we've ever seen, depending on how you look at things. And for a couple things to happen here down the stretch between St. Louis getting knocked out, which meant that we had a kind of lackluster crowd there. We saw the number that was reported. We know that number was not the number that was at the game. And I just thought it was kind of an overall vibe, because you had people you had a bunch of Battlehawks fans there who didn't really know who they wanted to root for. They were booing the Brahmas, they were booing the Stallions, and they were kind of cheering for both here and there, kind of depending on how they were feeling. They were booing Tom Brady. It was just like, it was such a strange dynamic, and it's unfortunate the Battlehawks weren't in the game because it would be much more energetic. It just, I don't know, it just felt like there was a lack of like a buzz, and there was a lack of like the USFL championships I was at the last couple of years. Like, there was just a certain like excitement in the air that just quite wasn't there this year. I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
Aura.
It just didn't. Yes, thank you, Ducky. The aura was just different. And again, it's nothing against St. Louis. It's just the fact that the Battlehawks, like the fans that were there, it felt like they didn't really know what to do with themselves.
Right. It was the tailgate for Summerstock. I think that I'll actually finish up. I'm sorry. I'm rude.
No, you're good. I mean, and then on the flip side, the game itself being such a dud, in my humble opinion. I mean, that first half was atrocious. Like, that was really sloppy football, and I think it could prove to be an issue for the league simply because, and thankfully, I think most of the attention is now on the Birmingham three-peat dynasty. Thank God. But at the same time, we know that there are going to be some casuals tuning into this game. And we know there's going to be some casuals. This was the first spring football game they watched all year. They could have tuned into any game this season and seen some of the best spring football we've ever seen. And they showed up, and they're watching Chase Garbers take the lay of games. They're watching timeouts being called on both sides because there's miscommunications and sloppy play. They're watching their referees call timeouts so a guy can change his socks. Like, what in the world were we doing? I don't know. It was just like, it was so sloppy. At least down the stretch, Birmingham made a couple of interesting things happen, but across the board, I thought this game was the worst of the year.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned this might be the first time somebody watches a UFL game or even a spring football game in general. I got an email from my uncle today, and he was in Portugal yesterday, and he sent me an email, and he said he stopped at some diner out there to grab a burger because they have really good burgers, I suppose. And when he sat down, he said they were playing football, and I didn't recognize any of the teams, and I didn't recognize any of the logos, uniforms, or names. And then I realized it was on Fox TV, and it was the UFL. And he's like, didn't you mention something to me about the UFL in the past? And so, I mean, one, there's a couple interesting things out of that. One is, case in point, it was somebody I know personally's first game watching. And two, worldwide, baby. I think it's actually kind of interesting that in some random diner in Portugal, they were airing the UFL Championship. I think that's kind of neat because I don't know how much we know about the international distribution of the league. I know that there's a good fan base in Brazil that I know has been dying and hoping to get it aired out in there, whether it was the XFL, the USFL, and now the UFL. But at least now we know it's aired in Portugal, or by means of, I don't know, maybe it was legal, maybe it wasn't. I don't know the ins and out of this establishment out there. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And then, of course, I replied to him. I was like, yeah, I was at that game. Sent him a picture of my press pass. And I wish this, though, two things. Beyond, I'm going to just throw this one because I'm asking for things. UFL guys, sign me up on a ref shirt. I know that's not what we're talking about. Here's the other one, though. Season 2 of the UFL. Here's what you could do for me. On the press pass, can we get this updated to like Pro Football Newsroom or UFL Newsroom or something, man? Please.
Mine says
that's
Pro
your
Football
own
Newsroom.
fault, ref.
No,
Yeah.
It says Pro Football Newsroom in my bio. So here's what it is. Well,
But like my press badge says Pro Football Newsroom.
Well, good for you. All right.
So does mine. Look at us.
I don't want to get into it because I know people get a bad rap all the time, but nothing makes me laugh more than when I think
Who
back
could
to
possibly get a bad rep?
I'm not getting into it. I'm just saying week 1, nothing made me laugh more than Zach and I. We went to Arlington. Our passes are fine. We come to Houston where I live and I have a season pass. They have Zach in the system. They got his pass. It's all good. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, what? What do you mean? I've been this is like my 3rd season covering this team. I live here. Anyway, it all got settled though. So I'm not knocking anybody because at the end of the day, it did get sorted. We're all set.
I still think it's something on your end for the XFL newsroom showing up.
I double checked. No. I double checked the application, and in there it shows Pro Football Newsroom. It's only because they probably pulled it from the database last year. That whatever. Anyway, I got the pass. Why am I angry? I'm not angry. I'm just pointing it out. Why am I even talking anymore? Ducky.
Here's what. No, Ducky, go. Go. I was gonna say that
He doesn't
the
have
beginning.
anything to say.
No, I'm going to tee Ducky up here. I'm going to tee Ducky up here because here's what the thing is. Everyone keeps saying this game is a disaster. This is the worst game, and this and that and the other thing. Ducky, I think you put out your messaging. This is not that I agree or disagree, but I feel like you have thoughts on this. I mean, 25-0, kind of, in your opinion, proves the point that you were trying to make all season. That there's what?
I said it after the first game of the year. I was like, there's the talent gap. It's right there, clear as day. And then last weekend, after the Michigan and Birmingham game, I was like, that was the UFL Championship. You just watched it right there. And then this week comes the show, and the XFL side can't even score 1 point. I was right. I'm always right. I've never been wrong.
Well,
You've never been wrong in this space?
Nope. And St. Louis is not a football city. They did not show up.
oh, I don't know about that.
Canton,
I'm not going to.
Canton is the best football city. It's the birthplace of professional football, and that's where they should have been.
Well, the weather alone, I was actually shocked. I was giving Luke a hard time when he said it was hot there. I was like, bro, you just flew in from Texas. What are you talking about? And then I actually got down to St. Louis yesterday. I was like, you wasn't lying. It's pretty hot. And we looked at the weather in Canton. It was a beautiful, like 80 degrees. And that's in the middle of the day. That's when
I left, it was like 78, I think. That would
have been perfect.
And then some dude on Twitter is yelling at me like, oh, there's a heat index. And I'm like, I live here. What are you talking about? It's not that hot. Chill out.
Right. Either way,
I am a proponent of them using the domes. I just think the league kind of got unlucky. I mean, because I don't know, because it's so weird. And this is what I think frustrates me the most, where last year when the XFL had their championship in San Antonio, and even though the Brahmas weren't in it, that was a really good environment. Like, it was really lively on TV. They had a good crowd. They filled the lower bowl. Like, people were into it, and there was a lot of XFL fans that were there, whether they were fans of the Brahmas, Defenders, Renegades, or whoever else. They were all really into the game, and it just didn't feel the same this year. It just wasn't the same vibe, and I credit St. Louis for showing up. I'm really glad that all the fans that showed up did. It was just a strange dynamic for a championship game. Like, most of the fans were for a team that wasn't playing in the game. I don't know if I've ever, seen that before. I've never experienced that before personally. It was just strange. It was just, I don't know. I can't really quite put my finger on it, but...
there's a lot of factors that I was thinking about, like, because this is a complex issue with this. Because I will agree. I'll tell you what, James, I'm with you. It was awkward. Now, now, to be honest, we were sitting on the Birmingham side. And that
like
was
it's almost like when a wedding has the ex there in attendance.
That's perfect.
But then you forget to
That's
invite the
perfect.
actual family of the person who's getting married. And it's just the ex's family.
That was so specific. I feel like you've been a part of that.
Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Oh my God. Okay, let me get back to what I was trying to say.
That's crazy. I think football's made to be played outside in the elements.
Oh my God.
Not inside of a dome.
I like outdoor atmospheres for the sake you get, like, it's a little, there's other things you can do with outdoor that you sometimes can't do with a dome, like the Dome of America. So I remember a dome was built in 1995. It's an older setup. It's not one of these new fancy big high scaling roof domes either. So there's that. Again, you wonder what could have happened. I imagine league execs won't tell you, but you would wonder what happened if the Battlehawks make it in. Also with the Brady thing, I gave it some thought. I'm like, why is, credit Tom Brady, polarizing figure, I think, for some teams. I'm like, well, why is it so bad here? Spygate. Think about this. 2001, St. Louis Rams. Kurt Warner is in the building, same building, by the way that he made the Rams the greatest show on turf. Guess Tom Brady's first win was over this said Rams team. And years later, 2007, Spygate comes out. Oh, they were filming practices. That city might not have a team, but they do remember. Things will not be forgotten. Spygate was a thing that was a sore spot. And that Super Bowl was one that many fans in that city thought they got away from, to be honest with you.
You can't blame Tom Brady for having, like, X-ray eyes and good intel. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly. Dude, nobody was mad at Skip. Well, some people were mad at, and I don't even know why people are mad at Skip Holtz for the whole the tight end situation. I don't know if it was Skip Holtz.
Wait a minute.
Oh, was it
Hey guys, let's
the trade.
Trust me,
I don't think so.
Something will be coming out on that soon, and you'll want to be staying tuned to PF Newsroom for that one. I'll leave it at that.
I was going to say, I know this.
Do we know if it's James might know if it's Skip Holtz's fault? I don't know that. Well, stay tuned for more. For another
are you trying to
stay tuned?
Even if he didn't suggest it, he didn't okay it. He's just like, hey, I don't want that to happen. He didn't make the final call. It's not his call. That's my belief.
Yeah. I don't want to leave this point behind, so I'm just gonna say I don't think it's that deep when they're booing Tom Brady. I think it's just fun to boo Tom Brady. I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, I think it's just something, especially if you're like, you have no rooting interest, it's just fun to boo.
Well, when your quarterback, like AJ McCarron, and he sucks, and then you have the greatest quarterback ever to walk onto your field. It's a little bit different.
AJ McCarron has more playoff touchdowns in the fourth quarter than Joe Burrow. So,
book it.
So, who's the real Cincinnati
AJ would have more fourth quarter touchdowns than any other quarterback in the UFL if his offensive coordinator knew how to call a playbook. But
that wasn't walking on one leg.
Another time.
A little nugget, by the way. So, obviously, Ducky Ref, you're sitting in the 100 section. So I was sitting in the section directly above you. Klatt and Brady are sitting, and I'm not joking, just a few rows behind us.
Oh, wow.
And so we got the direct boos. There were women that were there, like, looking at him and screaming at the top of their lungs trying to throw this man off his game. Mid-broadcast going, "You suck!" He's freaking yelling.
Which
yell. That is pretty amazing. I'm not going to lie.
Speaking of those 300 sections, Zach, what I thought the league, maybe a little swing and a mess, and I understand there's so many moving pieces, so there's certain things you can and cannot do on short notice. I think we should have had those 300 people calm down.
I agree.
There was a lot of people up there, and people don't realize it. So when people are tweeting about the
here's my caveat on this.
What was that?
Nope. No, we lost him.
Oh no!
Well, I'll say this.
You
'cause
lost
I
me?
agree.
Oh, there you
No,
go.
we lost Zach.
Zach.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
You're back, Zachy boy. What do you got?
I was gonna put on the fact that 300 sections have private bathrooms that are actually really nice, and I'm not gonna lie. In NFL times, they probably were pretty high expensive tickets. I'm just gonna put it out there. So there is that. But if you want to look nice on TV, I don't argue differently with you.
I think the TV should have been the most important thing of this entire situation again, because you have certain casuals tuning in, and now we're looking at another. Like, we've had so many empty stadiums this year.
I know.
The one stadium that's been
maddening.
consistent is St. Louis, and now in the championship, you look at that lower bowl, and it looked really bad. Well, not really bad. It just looked kind of inconsistent. It wasn't filled. And again, there was a lot of people up in the 300 section that I could see from the field that people could not see on TV. And you see the discourse on Twitter and people coming at my comments of like, well, they're expecting decent attendance. There still was decent attendance there. We're just all spread out. It's a big stadium, so it's not going to look great on TV if you don't have 15 to 20,000 people all in that lower bowl. I don't know. That to me is just like, make an executive decision, throw those people down there. It'll look better on TV, and you'll have a little bit less of the casual. Because like, I'm not complaining about it. I'm more so just like, we need the casuals to stop complaining about this stuff. So let's do things so they're not complaining. Because
Or even like the 400 sections. I was surprised people were even, because it's not like people were like checking tickets or anything. No, don't take that idea from me, folks. But
There was that one guy all the way at the top. You remember?
the last row. He sat in the last
He
row.
was just up there all by himself. Oh my goodness!
Getting the all 22 cam is what that was right there.
100%.
Freaking sky.
So
St.
real
Louis
quick,
fans as well.
I have a prediction, and we'll see. We'll see if
no.
I'm right or wrong. But it feels like the XFL, UFL, they're particular about domes for the championship, and I assume there's a few reasons with that. One, it kind of weatherproofs your game. No matter if it's raining, it's hot, it's doing whatever, you're gonna be safe. Yeah, it might muck up people coming to the game, but at least if they're going to get to the game, they're going to be dry, they're going to be warm or cold or whatever they need to be. So we saw it in San Antonio last year. We saw it in St. Louis this year. I mean, that leaves me to say that Ford Field is going to host the championship next year. You don't think so?
I'm muted. No, and I've had a lot of people ask me like about the stadiums, and I was just debating Luke Miller about this last week. And the reason why I don't think Ford Field's a viable option is because it's the most expensive stadium in the league. We couldn't get it for a playoff game. That's the last spot the league would want to go for the championship. Now, I would love to see it happen at Ford Field. Personally, for me, I have to travel 30 minutes. That'd be the best thing ever. But I don't see the league going there unless they can somehow work out something with Ford Field where things are more reasonably priced. And I don't see that happening because Ford Field has been really stickler. They were the reasons why things were so tricky getting Ford Field secured this past season because, you know, it's an expensive field to use. It's an NFL stadium. I think you're better off. You're going to get a better deal in San Antonio or St. Louis, and you're going to get a better deal in if you wanted to go outdoors, go to Canton, go to one of these other spots. You have options.
I suggest this because if you, like Ducky said, the game is supposed to be played in the elements. And I'll tell you, there's one game that I've been to that there were elements, and that was the Spring League Mega Bowl. I mean, throw those teams out, 100-plus degree weather, in the pads, in the heat, and we'll see who's the damn best. I'll tell you that. Let's bring this game to Houston. And it could be. It doesn't.
I think that ruins the quality of the product in the field because you got guys that are sluggish.
We were supposed to get the championship in the XFL, and we never got it back. So, all right, league.
If we move the schedule up, then yes.
Yeah, let's move it to actually. If the IFA can go out there and pay in July and August in open air fields, so can.
They haven't played yet.
Well, we got it. They're going to at least have a jamboree first, right? That's like the bomb.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I remember the last one of those. Paying for players to get home.
Good times.
We'll be analyzing that at some point. I know
around the IFA coming
around
soon.
the IFA. No, I'm afraid not. Final thoughts on this game before I do want to talk about the victors here. And this is a final debate. I didn't want to leave on this, and I want to hear from everybody. I'm going to let Ducky lead on this because him and I actually had a bit of a back and forth on our ATU chat leading up to today. The MVP of the game actually did get a bit of a stir in our own Discord. And Ducky, you have the floor. Adrian Martinez gets the MVP, but
I don't think he deserved it. I think if there was a shutout in a championship game, which doing it in a regular game is hard enough. I think that a defensive player should be given the MVP award, and especially to Zeno in particular, because he had 9 tackles, 6 of them were solo, and 2 forced fumbles. And everybody's like, well, Adrian had 3 touchdowns, yada, yada. And I'm just like, without the defense, putting them in the good field advantage areas, like just the good spots, they're not scoring 3 touchdowns at all. It's all from the defense. Go back and watch the game.
I would add to that. I think Zeno deserved it. If you're gonna do an offensive player, Ricky Person.
Yep.
Over 100 yards. He sparked that run. So while I agree with you, Ducky, that I think Tizino was the most deserving player of the night, offensively, first up was Ricky Person in my eyes. Because again, Martinez, look, I love Martinez. He's the MVP of the league. He was kind of mediocre throughout most of that game and had a couple big plays at the end because of the defense and because of Ricky Person setting them up with great field position with a 44-yard run. So
I don't know who votes on that, but
I'll also throw in there when it comes to Zeno making that case. He was the highest graded player according to PFF this week, but not just this week, the entire season. He had the best game from any position the entire year. He had a 96 grade this week that just came out about an hour ago. And so it's like, okay, if a player has the best performance in the biggest game, like, why aren't you giving him that? You know, it was certainly interesting. I get it when a quarterback has 3 scores, but we've seen in the previous years, like, you know, a receiver has gotten it the last 2 years in the USFL. So it's not like they're not willing to go off that. So, you know, it was just an interesting decision, definitely.
Tricky indeed. Defensively, yeah. I mean, start of the game. Honestly, if I were to give it to anyone on staff, I give it to Dr. Blevins there for having such a game plan to set up. If we're having to give it to an individual, though, Tizino definitely seems to be the best fit that finished the day. I know we're splitting hairs with you, Ducky. I'm not going to hide from my own debate with you on this. You know, one of the fumbles I am going to split hairs on was at the end of the first half. It was a give-up play. Didn't have any impact on the game in the grand scheme of it. But that doesn't mean I don't think he deserved the MVP. So let me hold the phone on that. Don't start ripping into my door and trying to come and raid it inside my house. Thing is, I think that what is happening, you have a guy that they're looking for a flashy storyline. It's Tom Brady who's there, who's the quarterback in the show. And then I think also, if Ricky Person scores a touchdown, I think that the clear cut easily is Ricky Person's, like James is saying right there. I think just for the fact that 44-yard run, having light things up. Look, I talked with my dad the entire game. I kept saying this. Someone's going to flinch. This is a game where it's going to have to take somebody flinching and making a mistake first to have it flip the other way. And sure enough, Ricky found a few good lanes, had a 10-yard run the first play. Immediately after, it runs 44 yards, bounces off tacklers, and sets up that first touchdown drive that really set things in motion to where Skip and company could find lanes and get things going in the second half. If he scores on that third drive where there's T-bone formation, I think they give it to him straight up, no questions asked. But for some reason, and I get it because defensive guys always seem to get the shaft in these situations. It is so hard for these guys when they make votes to just not lean defense or to not just pick defense. And that's the best I got. I think they just looked at 3 TDs and leaned with that. Martinez did have some pretty solid plays overall as well. I think that some things actually didn't help his stat line. For example, Marlon Williams fumbling on a athletic play that got knocked out just as he's hitting down on the turf. That would have added and had him go over 100 yards passing. But I digress. Some drops as well. You name it, you got it. Tizino makes a great case, and I think it leans into more of our discussion we had a few weeks ago on the all UFL nods. What makes an impact performance? Is it about stats, or is it about the impact plays? And I think there's a bit of an inconsistency we're seeing now, gentlemen, on how this is being dictated with awards.
Yeah, I think it's about big plays. I'm not a stat guy at all. It's not. I've always been
Zach, I agree with your opinion on why they chose Martinez, simply for the fact that quarterbacks are going to get more attention. You want the big name, the MVP of the league, to win the MVP there, and you have Tom Brady handing it out. So I see, like what you're saying, I see why they did it. The football person in me is like,
oh yeah,
dang it.
It doesn't mean it's the right call. Doesn't mean it's the right call. I'll be honest with you, but yeah.
You got to do what you got to do, and again, and I guess that's an example of Fox doing something to kind of help get the league a little more attention, things like that. So like seeing that angle and like seeing those things happen is why I wish we would have thrown the 300 level down. Like if you're gonna make certain decisions to try to get a little bit more positive PR and whatnot, then you got to make all the decisions to do that, because especially in such an important point of the season, it's your inaugural championship. That's my personal take, but
Martinez didn't even throw for 100 yards.
98,
I went back and looked, and I was like, because I thought I saw that earlier, and I looked back, and no, he didn't even pass the century mark. So
and that's why people were telling me 3 touchdowns, and it's like, look at his touchdowns, or look at his yards. Obviously, they weren't driving touchdowns.
That one running TD was pretty damn athletic, though. Not gonna lie, it was like one of the best fakes I've seen from a quarterback in a while. But still, it just makes you wonder, because like we talked about this all of UFL. What is it, stat lines, or is it impact play? I think back to like the Jay Sternberger and Sal Cannella debate we had about that. Is it about the impact plays or about the stats? I asked the questions. We have to see what is the consistency on that regard. But that's just how it goes with awards sometimes, and I'm afraid can't always lean on that. Any other final thoughts on the game before we, and I think some fans might not be ready for this if you don't want to hear more Stallion stuff. We're going to talk the legacy of the Stallions here in a second. But any thoughts on the game that maybe we missed?
I still enjoyed myself. I still had fun. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's all about. I mean, summer stock was fun because we got to do something different, right? And I think it went well. There was a couple hiccups there, but at the end of the day, I think the next time around that we do something like that, it'll work out. But the game itself was good. I think would everybody have liked it to be a closer game? Sure. Would we want there to be more people there? Sure. But you know what? It wasn't at least a situation like the AAF where we didn't make it to the championship. So I'm happy about that. And my hope is next year we're talking about the second UFL championship, and maybe that one will be, in a neutral location. Maybe that one will be a tighter game, and hell, maybe we might see the Stallions pick up their 4th championship, right?
Maybe
and
so.
The halftime show. I missed it.
James Baker.
The team shop.
Yeah,
that was it was something. I'll give you that. Mark,
let's just say I have never visited a press box to get food at halftime in a game yet this season, and I did last night.
Noted.
How was the pizza?
So, it was pretty good. And actually, I'll be honest, I was really happy. I got to try some toasted ravioli for the first time, and that was really that made the trip all worth it. Like that.
There was a fan walking around with a ravioli hat. Is that like a St. Louis thing? Other than
fried ravioli. It's real.
Fried ravioli and high crime. You gotta love it.
Oh
my God!
Hey,
everybody's getting all lippy now that we're not in the city anymore.
I was gonna say something. I was like, is that a thing in St. Louis other than just crime? And James did it for me.
Can I just say something? Because I know, Ducky, you've been joking about it, and tongue in cheek or not, whatever, we're not going to go there. But I will say my first experience coming into St. Louis was, why are there like 50 cops up there and they're blocking the road? And when we got past the car, there was the result of a police chase, and it was like a Camaro that had no rubber left on the rims. And I said, oh, well, we must have made it, because there's the police chase. There's the arch. Here we are.
The thing is, I wasn't even actually going to go to the championship. because I had a lot going on. But
Mhm.
after people were like, "Oh, you better not come. You better not show up," I kind of like I had to show up. Like I'm
Yeah.
not a
You're going
coward.
home in an ambulance.
Yeah, and so like whenever I like every championship, I've always worn the same outfit. It's like a giant yellow striped shirt, and I was like, I'm going to be so recognizable in this, and I kind of wanted to be. I was like, I want to make sure, like, if people know I'm here, I'm here.
Got the
Like,
summer
I'm not
vibes
trying-
going on.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hide. I'm right here, and nothing happened.
My final thing is I hope Bryce Thompson's doing okay. I know that he had a very entertaining day for me watching in the stands. But he never was actually personally there mentally, if I'm going to be honest with you. I called him the meltdown because I counted at least 4 meltdowns he had through the course of 4 quarters.
That dude, the league should get therapists for these players, especially him. That dude needs it.
Also, Tease Tabor getting booed at was a common occurrence. And that was definitely a Brahmas targeted boo in such. Everyone else has had a take. Nick, anything else before we leave this?
No, unless we want to talk about kind of this defense, we can leave that for the legacy stuff or not.
Okay.
Yeah,
legacy
let's
stuff.
let's
just kick it off in. Let's do this thing,
yeah,
man.
let's start
I'm
in
ready.
there because I think I have I was last night I wasn't sure if I was really going to be on because I didn't think I had that much interesting to say, and then I kind of started thinking about this defense, and it kind of hit me that I'm like, at least this defense needs to be in the conversation for best in spring football history. I think it might be the best, and you look at the stats. And it's like, okay, well, at least there, I think right now the it's just changed.
What?
There we go.
I hit him. I'm trying to fix my audio. No curtains. I saw the private chat. Where do I change my stupid audio?
I'll leave you to that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Your audio sounds fine to me.
Oh, good.
So good. Like what? Keep going, Nick. Please go. Please go.
All right, go on to your wrong rant, whatever you're talking about.
So it's certainly, I look at, I think the Maulers are definitely the
Number one
that everyone kind of considers it. And okay,
Stop touching the controls. What are you doing? He's trying to talk about the defense.
Oh my God.
Please go ahead.
All right. So anyway, if you look at the kind of the major stats, they're by far the first, higher. We're comparing them to the Maulers. This defense to the Maulers. They both played 12 games, so it's apples to apples there. Less passing yards, rushing yards, more sacks, a few less turnovers, which would probably be if you're going to make an argument for the Maulers. But I certainly think they're in the same conversation. And, I think, especially this is crazy for me to say, comparing that about, 3 weeks ago, I was saying that this might be an issue for them going forward as they change defensive coordinators to Corey Chamberlain, who's the guy right now. But we've seen with 2 coordinators, coaching this defense, they have had 2 incredible stints as, they finally found their identity last week, especially. But even then, before that, they, the 2 Panthers games, they played fine defensively to even good once they got into the second half of that Panthers game to shut them out. Part of that's because that Ling was throwing the ball to them. But in general, still, they had a really good game. And then you look at the championship game and it's like, cool. Well, they, and the biggest stage, they have what's probably one of the most talented offenses. I mean, we're talking about 2 NFL running backs, 2 NFL wide receivers, a quarterback that's probably going to the NFL or, should have going into it. I felt like was a lot going into it. I'm not so sure now, but this is on paper, a very good offense, one of the best on paper that we've seen. And they goose egged them, and it's like, they got to be in this conversation. You shut out the final 6 quarters that they played in. They shut out, playoff teams. And it's like, okay, I understand that it's not EJ Perry and was it Alex Magoo who, the Mauler struggled against. That's better quarterback play than what they were going up against. I'm not trying to dissuade that, but I think at minimum, you have to put them in that conversation. And that's not even to mention that they spent the first 6 weeks dominating teams. I mean, you think back to that Memphis game, They 8 sacks. But even in games where their offense was sputtering, like that first Michigan game, the DC game, they were good this whole time. And so, it's a thing of like, I'm okay if you think that like the Maulers are in that conversation, but also there's that piece of like, no one remembers the 06 Ravens or the 86 Bears, when we're getting to like the long, but you get what I'm saying.
To be fair though, because the 86 Bears, but yes, go on. I know what you're talking about exactly. Yeah.
Where like that defense was better, but they weren't the ones that won the championship,
By all categories, it's better than 85 team.
Yeah, and so that kind of thing, and same thing with the 06 Ravens too, of like a defense that was in every category better, the team was better, the offense was better, but they didn't win it all. When we look back at these kind of teams and say like who is the best defense in spring football, they've got a case at minimum, and that's crazy to say. And I think that really speaks to Corey Chamberlain, who stepped up, was their, secondaries coach. Now he's their defensive coordinator very late in the season and was able to put together a defense that just was stifling. And they, I think you have to look at him, is he suddenly, if you're talking coordinators in the league right now, I want to be clear because there's guys outside the league. Jared Horton, I think, is the number one on that list that I think deserve head coaching spots. But if you're hiring internally, is there any other coordinator that you feel better about? Like maybe Colin Bauer, that's another one. There's a few guys, but I think Corey Chamberlain jumped up in the last couple of weeks of like, oh, this guy's legit. He was a coach in the CFL a few years. Like suddenly he might put himself on the map as being a head coach guy. And he was a secondaries coach in week 7. So like, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot to be said about this Stallion defense. And they're also to match that, they're going to send so many guys to the NFL, especially in that front 7.
Yeah.
But my thing is they've got former Maulers on the Stallions defense, which is probably why it's so good, because they had Jared Horton for that.
So does that discount this defense because it's the year priors that you're talking about?
I wouldn't
they
say
have 2 players.
I wouldn't say it discounts it, but it definitely shows. I mean, the Mark and Tizino were 2 of their best players on their defense. It just shows how good Jaron Horton really was with his coaching. It carried on to the Stallions team, and it just goes to show that Jaron should be a head coach in this league, I think. It also goes to show that the Maulers defense was better than the Stallions defense because they had Jaron.
Let's not talk about Mark Gilbert's season. I don't think that's that's going to help your argument. But
he's a good player to have on the team. He's a smart guy. Even if he's not making even if he's not making big plays, he's a good guy to go to learn some things from. So,
all right.
I do think there's a legitimate argument. This is definitely one of the best defenses we have seen in spring football since we've seen the rise of it back in 2020 here, 2019 with the AAF and that interest. I haven't gone back and looked at the historical data with the USFL or I've looked back at, say, the 01 XFL yet. But I think in our last 2 decades, it's definitely up there with the Maulers when talking about pacing and talking about ones that we go, yeah, this was a big deal. Or, yeah, these guys imposed their will and made a stand. And again, a shutout's that's no slouch of an argument. To shut a team out is the ultimate staple of a defense saying we ran and dominated your day. The fact that it was for, like Nick's saying, 6 straight quarters leading in. That's a hell of an accomplishment against your top level talent to make this run to finish the job, and also finished up their tops in defensive categories to end the year too.
If I had to rank the spring league altogether since 2020, I'd go This is me. Maulers 2023, this Stallions, and then I would go 2020 Roughnecks. That was a good defense.
Ooh, okay.
That was a pretty good defense.
I was thinking, now it's tough because it's 5 games.
Right.
I was thinking, so I wasn't really counting AAF or XFL 2020 just because it's like, well, they didn't have the sample size.
Right.
The team from back then was the New York Guardians that I was thinking of.
Guardians,
if you remember back then, that was a pretty, they had some dudes, even TJ Barnes, shout him out. that was a pretty good defense. And also the 2022 Stallions defense. Looking back at it, I was surprised at how like statistically good that defense was too, because we don't really think of them as like a defensive heavy team. We think of like Jamar Smith and Bo Scarborough, but that was another defense that I think would be up in that conversation. But I think the 2024 group, I mean, certainly is better than 2022, but like it's in that conversation at minimum for sure.
Tough debate. Gentlemen, Rev, James, thoughts?
So a couple of things, and for me, there's arguments you can make for both depending on how you look at it, right? In the merger, we went from 16 teams down to 8. The talent levels have gotten much, much higher than what they were when you had the talents between USFL and XFL. So that, helps Birmingham's case of their defense being able to do this at an even higher level than what the competition was a year ago. At the same time, Birmingham has the best offense in the UFL, and it really helps to have good defense. It really helps to have good offense for your defense, and it allows you to not be on the field constantly. Your offense is putting up points, and statistically, the Stallions have the best offense in the UFL. That's no debate. Rewind to the USFL in 2023. Who had statistically the worst offense in the USFL? The Pittsburgh Maulers, and it wasn't even close. So that, to me, is also something that you can look at. I mean, there's so many ways you can look at this, but the Maulers being able to do that while having the worst offense in the league, that defense, week after week after week after week, they showed up. And then, unfortunately, look, I know. Yeah, Nick, did they give up 28 points in the championship? Yes, they did. But they had a fumble recovery for a touchdown that was called back simply because he handed the ball forward instead of backwards. You have an offense that couldn't get any points out of that turnover, and that basically ends the game right there. So, Nick, I am not disagreeing with you. I'm just being Switzerland and trying to point out some arguments for both sides.
That's a valid point. The only thing I would throw back at you there is that it's not like the Stallions offense. It's had moments. Like you look at like a Memphis or the Houston games where like they could rely on their
They're
offense.
averaging more yards a game than any team.
But the last couple weeks, it's been like hot.
They played good defenses. They're playing Michigan. They're playing San Antonio. San Antonio was statistically the best defense in the UFL in almost every category in the regular season.
I think, though, like certainly this week, you have to say the defense won this week. Last week, I think you got a pretty good argument.
No kidding.
They had more offense, though, for sure. And then the last couple weeks, it's like
they already clinched. They weren't playing hardball.
It really felt like Birmingham was sleepwalking a bit those last couple of weeks, as much as they didn't like to act like that. But I don't know. I mean, look, for me, I think what the Stallions were able to do is Skip Holtz does not lose the same team twice. Zach, I know that's kind of been what you've been teaching.
You took my point. You took my freaking
No, I was giving you credit. Zach, I just said.
I know.
All right, Zach, take it. I'm going on mute.
No. Please go ahead. He's right. Skip has never lost to the same team. I brought this up on Summer Stock too. Somehow this was not really talked about much whatsoever during the and credit. That's one of those like fun fact stats. But like this is what I talk about with Skip. He is the king of adaptability. You might get him on one game, but you better not play the same damn game plan when you go play that team once again. It's just like any of the great dynasties in football. Just like the Chiefs, just like the Patriots of old, you don't play the same team twice and expect to get the exact same result. It's the exact same. It's exactly what happened here. And yes, you can talk about A.J. Smith not adapting during the game, but I don't think that he really looked at the game film from last one and went, "Yeah, we got to throw that game film out." I am going to go off on a limb and say that he was like, you know what? I think we can just straight up beat these guys with speed, and they're not going to tackle properly. Because I've thought Birmingham at times has not been good at one-on-one tackle situations, has gotten a little sloppy at tackles at times this year. You know what they did? They shaped up. They went, hey, to beat them, get them down, don't let them get yards after the catch, and play one-on-one ball and play smash mouth ball that the Battlehawks didn't play the week prior. You don't play the same game plan against a good coach like Skip Holtz. He is the king of adaptability. He was like this for 2 years in the USFL. It's the same guy. No one has learned that lesson yet since playing him. Only one close was Houston, which is kind of funny how that works with CJ there. But even then, I'm just saying he doesn't lose twice in a row in the same year to the same
magic
team.
touch in Houston.
Honestly, you could say Michigan was
And
close
to me, I
too.
think that's a big part of what is.
They were just couldn't finish the deal 2 weeks
and
ago.
I think,
That's
you know, when
They
we
lost
look at it,
both,
why are the Stallions a dynasty?
adaptability and Skip Holtz being a G, Zach Potter being a good. I can hear you. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Jamar Smith.
Can you hear us?
Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Yeah, I can. Now, I think that is part of like the divide, not divide, but I mean, when we look at the Stallions, there's no denying that the talent on the field is the talent that they are. They're making the things happen. But I mean, when we look behind the scenes, you have Zach Potter kind of getting those ingredients together for the chef that is Skip Holtz. I mean, he seems to be that factor for the team. Maybe I'm wrong, but like you mentioned, Zach, the adaptability, the ability to adjust to it. And that's why I was telling Ducky, if they can keep this game close in the first half, I got a feeling they're going to win it at the end, whether it's a close one or not, because I mean, that's just what they do. We're now 3 seasons in, 3 seasons done, and 4 losses collectively. That's crazy. And there's only one other team that has won 3 back-to-back-to-back champions chips since 2020 in any of these pro leagues. And I mean,
I thought it was since 2000.
You just
right?
got to give it up for the Stallions. Now I'm going to say, what's that?
Was it
Since 2000? Isn't that what I said? Or no?
I'm pretty sure you said 2020. Either way, you're
Since
good. You're good.
2000.
Well, yeah, you get the Huskies and the Lakers. Apparently, that was the one that they didn't get.
I probably.
I'll jump in here and I'll.
Oh, and I love, you know, just since you brought up the Lakers, hold on real quick. Just I have to throw this in. Since you brought up the Lakers, quick trivia fact. Do we know who blocked the Lakers from their three-peat in 2004? A little team that was going to work. Does anyone know?
The Pistons.
That would be the Detroit Pistons. Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Wallace times 2, Tayshaun Prince. Oh my God, that team was amazing. Anyway, go on, Nick. Wrong
Speaking
show.
of amazing
teams, that's for
teams.
basketball newsroom.
Coming 2025. So what I was gonna say was I think Zach Potter is the reason that they're in these opportunities. You look at their roster. They ran circles around pretty much everybody. But then you look, you know, I was pointing it out last week with San Antonio too, another very well-constructed roster, like as far as just talent-wise. And Skip Holtz is the reason they win these games every time. It's like, you know, you can, you know, it's the thing of like Zach Potter gives a team that can just out-talent guys. You know, you look at like a Memphis or Houston, and like there was sometimes, especially that second Houston game, it was kind of close. But like in general, they could just out talent teams that couldn't play with them, you know. And they did that a lot of the season. But also now, when it comes down to crunch time, Skip Holtz is the reason they win games like this, or win games like last week when it's 6 turnovers in the third quarter. It feels like they're this inevitable force. It's similar watching the Chiefs, where it's just like it feels like it's like, oh no, you like see it. Like I remember saying it in like the second quarter where I was like, oh, this is a game the Stallions win. It's just like, you just look at it. It's like they have not played good at all, but this is going to be the game they win because they're just going to out physical them. They're going to dig deep. They know how to coach guys. They know how to remain calm under these stressful, you know, championship atmosphere. And that wins them games. And it's like, that's a great formula. I mean, we'll see, you know, who knows what, you know, eventually Zach Potter, if you keep winning championships, he's going to get an opportunity somewhere else, probably in the NFL. So we'll see like how much longer they get of him, or if, you know, if they are able to replace him and continue this going, you know, is it just that now that they've won so many championships in a row, their pitch is easier than any other team? I mean, if you're Houston, your pitch is so much harder getting a guy out of the NFL than it is Birmingham now. Cause it's like, dude, we three-peat every year. We just sent the most players to the NFL last year. It was like 17, I want to say, to the NFL last year. they're probably sending double digits to maybe even close to that number this year. It's tough to say exactly, but I think they're going to get close. It's a more talented team this year than last year. So it's like their pitch is easier. It's like this like boulder rolling down a hill, and it's crushing every other team in its wake.
I don't know how Potter gets retained again is my thing.
He doesn't.
Because it's 3 straight years, and they keep on the recruiting talent that is there for at least the free agent talent for getting people in the door and selling you on what you want to be in a culture. Skip's the culture, Zach is the recruiter, and they both, like you're talking, Nick, work in perfect tandem. I just don't know how at least the recruiter of this whole one, the organizer who lets the pieces of the puzzle come to Skip, stays for another year when as James, I imagine, I know all of us have talked a little bit and have heard the rumblings. This guy gets interest, it's a matter of time at this point, you would think.
And you'd think Skip's getting interest too.
You think so too?
We'll see what all plays out with that this offseason and which coaches stay, which coaches go, and which guys might take other opportunities. And the good thing is that Skip Holtz, he talks so often about how he thinks this is, for one, the purest brand of football, and 2, the best job ever. I mean, he's been so open, and like we heard him talking to Wade Phillips in the first matchup that they had. Like he was like, "Isn't this the best job ever, man? This is the best job we've ever had." Like that's what you love to see, right? These are 2 really established, accomplished head coaches that are in the spring football scene and love being in the spring football scene. And I think that's what makes the league so good, is having those sorts of names and those sorts of faces behind what spring football is all about, if that makes sense. Like we need guys like Skip Holtz who are going to constantly push the spring football narrative and tell people how important it is to come play for the Stallions and to come watch this football team and to watch us win three, I almost said Super Bowls, 3 championships in a row. I mean, you could call them Super Bowls, I guess, at this point, if you really, really want to, but we should come up with a name.
Not after Sunday.
We really got to come up with a name for like the championship trophy. I feel like at some point it might just have to be named the Skip Holtz Trophy.
That's what the chat thinks it should be, is the Holtz Trophy or something along that line. At least, if anything, the USFL one is definitely the Holtz Trophy. He's got 3 of them now.
I would rename the USFL the Holtz Trophy, and then the XFL
like one, if you did it the way the NBA has like the Western Conference Finals trophy named after someone and the Eastern Conference Finals trophy named after someone, you could do that with USFL and XFL. But are we really going to give XFL to Bob Stoops?
Well, you could call it the Egg Whisker.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's a harder one. Just the history of it's so more disorganized as of late.
Yeah,
it's the thing because like the
McMahon Trophy.
The NFL, the McMahon Trophy. Oh man, I don't know how that was.
There you go. That trophy.
The what?
I said you could get pretty creative with that trophy, but
you could call it the 250.
Oh, it's ready. The Dwayne Johnson Trophy.
Ducky, I think I'm the only one who.
Yeah, James, you got it, but that's the only one I wanted to get it. I think seriously, 250. It's a good name.
250.
Well, anyways,
it's only Monday, folks.
We got that.
It's only Monday.
Silence.
Predictions for this weekend.
Tired.
Predictions for this weekend.
Yeah, I think the Gamblers are going to win this one big this week. I mean, we're going all in.
Postseason football in full swing.
I will
12-0, baby. 12-0.
I'm gonna go to USFL.
For an actual prediction, I think Liam Fornadell signs with the Patriots. I'm calling my shot. They just cut a guard today, and we know that they worked out with him. I don't have any inside information. This is pure speculation, but like, it's a joke. But like, seriously, I think when we, tomorrow we get signings.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be starting now, right? I mean, that's the thing, is we should be starting to see these more.
Yeah, I think we'll see them tomorrow. I think tomorrow is like the date where they'll actually officially start signing. So Jake Bates, Detroit,
which is an awesome.
We'll likely see David Davis to the Panthers, I believe, based on what Rappaport had reported a while back. Hakeem Butler, I'm sure, will end up somewhere because he's had workouts with the Jaguars, with the Panthers. It'd be really interesting to see if the Panthers bring in both Butler and Davis, because those are two guys that I think both deserve spots. And with how thin the Panthers are, you could make arguments that both those guys could at least get into training camp and take it from there. But we'll see. I mean, I think the offensive lineman will definitely get, Cole Laveo is a guy that I know will certainly have interest after his all UFL season. So I'm sure a couple of those Birmingham guys, Alex Taylor's had a really good year. I think we will see a surprising amount of offensive linemen getting workouts. We'll see how many of them actually get signed. Now, I think the most talented group, and I'd be curious to get some of your guys' opinions on this. I think the most talented position group in the UFL this year was the edge rushers. I think we had an unbelievable amount of guys who just performed at such a high level. When you look at, Michigan, Breland Speaks, and Birmingham, guys like Dondre Tillman and Jonathan Garvin. San Antonio has all sorts of ends that played really well. Wyatt Ray comes to mind. Delonte Scott had a really good season. And you can go down the list. St. Louis, Pita Tomopenu had another good year. I know he's getting a little bit up there in age, but I'm sure someone will give him a look. To me, the edges are the guys, especially when you look at their PFF grades, they're all at the top of the charts. Like, they were really, really good this year.
Depth to that position's huge, so yeah. And Nick, go ahead.
I think if you're talking top end, I think running back is the position I'd look at as far as I think there's three guys there, Sailors, and then the two running backs for the Brahmas that I think are a cut above. I think as far as guys that I really believe in to make it at the next level, I think that's the one that I would speak to. But edge rusher is probably one of the deeper ones as far as I don't feel
I'm saying maybe not necessarily guys that are going to the NFL and breaking out as stars. I'm saying guys that are going to be the amount of players we see from each position group getting signed. I think they'll probably be at the top of the list.
And that's kind of what I was getting to. Was I think there's going to be a decent amount. I think there's a lot of depth there at edge rusher that not all these guys are going to hit. I think there's going to be some surprise misses, especially because a lot of the guys that are really good are starting to get older. Breland Speaks, Pita Tamapwainu. It wouldn't shock me if they miss. That because of that age, but that they're pretty good. But I'd also say receiver. Receiver's always deep though. There's always that's always the if you're ranking them on signings, receiver's always the top one. I also that brings me back to the point I was going to make about the Panthers. I think that's a room that's wide open. If you can get two or three guys in that, one of them's going to make it. One of them might make the 53 because right now you look at it, there's Thielen, Dante, the guy from Pittsburgh, Johnson. Yeah, thank you. Mingo, and then the guy they drafted. And then it's who else? Everyone else is unproven. So that's a really interesting room for Daywood if Butler can get in there too. We'll see. They have to have a really good preseason on top of that, but that's a room that I'm really looking at as that could be the spot that gets you your Khalil Davis this year that actually makes an impact year one, which is not super typical with spring football players.
Yeah. You make good points, Thorn. I'm not disagreeing.
Thor's the roster man, and I would say I'm going to be fun watching to see what comes out from him as the offseason.
This
no
is
doubt.
we're now entering Thorn's era. This is his season. His season starts today.
Pretty much, yeah. I got 2 more articles coming out this week, by the way, guys. So keep your eye on PFN. Last 2 teams for the grading guys for the NFL.
Did you ever get a response from our boy Elijah Lee?
I don't know if we should talk about that on air, but I did not.
I think that's.
But that's besides the point. Let's get out of here.
I did some calculations. I pulled out the math on the points list.
Oh,
and I got what I want to know now, James. What did you think I was going to say?
I thought we were going back into Rep's Law, and I was like,
can
we just please end this,
100% this year, 100% last year, 90% year one, which I believe it brings it up to 96.6, but who's counting? Anyway, we're talking about the points totals here. Because I figured we'll wrap up the first round of points. That's the first in-season points. Then we'll go into off-season points. and then season 2 points. So we do have, and I guess we can split it up between guests and hosts. So let's see. I just need to check one thing. Okay, yeah. So the top 3 guests, as expected, Boogie came out on top with 420 points. Jace close second at 69 points, but he's probably not too angry with another championship ring on that.
He got a ring.
And Coach Flip, if he only would have twerked, he probably wouldn't have came in at second, but he's at 58 points. He probably would have got a 69 if he twerked, but that's not what we're here for. We want the host totals. And I'll be honest, I was actually surprised because, we just throw out numbers every week. I have not been paying attention to who has what. Predictions. Who do you think has the most points of the hosts on the show? Zach.
James.
Ducky,
I think it might be me only because I haven't missed an episode.
I was say James has been here every episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what I thought too. I don't know. We must be very generous, and it isn't me. It isn't me. It's not me. No, it's not.
It's the cat.
It's funny. I didn't even calculate her points. I should have did that. But anyway, we're not here to discuss that. Nick, you are the winner, chicken dinner of season 1 of Around the UFL with 119 points. Now, I'm assuming it's because of all the good points that you made on air. James, you came in third at 98, so right behind.
What?
Zach, you and I tied at 95, so we're 3 behind James. So we're the top 3. Ducky,
wait. Who was 90? Who was second?
You're 98. Zach and I are 95. Nick is 119.
You said I was third.
It wasn't even close.
No, you're second, and Zach and I are tied for third.
Okay, so I see. I see what's happening.
Well, whatever. Maybe I shouldn't have done the math. Maybe that's what we're learning here. Let's see.
Oh my God, Nick's running away with it. Like, dang.
Ducky, you're in fourth.
Good looks, man.
You're in fourth at 47 points.
Yeah.
And I assume because there was a couple weeks you were gone.
Yeah, I was gone. Yeah.
You were out. So we got what do we got here?
Wait, what's Jake?
Actually, Jake's in fourth. I take it back. Jake is 61. Okay. You're in fifth at 47. Luke at 30. And now that's for all the Stallions fans that are going to be mad at that. Is Luke here? He's not earning points for not being here.
Luke also got a ring, though.
He did get a ring. So, again, he's probably not too worried about it. But now we start season 1. And maybe what we'll do is we'll add them up.
Well, we got to figure out what the hell
What did I win?
What the heck?
Oh, no, I got it all under cover. We're taking care of it. Don't you guys worry. But another good time. Yeah, exactly. Well, we were going to win a date with someone, but that didn't work out very well.
James can take first. I'm good.
We're not doing it.
So anyway,
I volunteer as tribute.
No, you don't.
I volunteer that Nick wins immunity for criticisms against the Stallions.
There you go. I got a whole situation planned out. Don't you worry, buddy. You're going to have a surprise, and it will be a surprise.
You get a one weekend trip to Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
You
win
waterboarding.
Last home game in Houston in the sun. Anyway, segue time again, because we didn't announce this on Summer Stock. Because why would we? Why would we announce it on Summer Stock 3 Tailgate Edition when ATU was 1 day away? Now, you might have been looking. You might have been wondering, what about that Ducky merch? How many mouths are being fed this year? Last year, we gave 1,000 meals to Feeding America. Any predictions on how many meals we're serving up this year? Zach, how many do you think we got?
1,500.
Okay. Ducky, how many do you think we got?
1,069.
Okay. Nick?
7.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
And James, what do you think we got?
I'm going with 1,420.
Okay. So We're going to have to amend this because I liked it was 1,001. Now I might have to donate an extra $68 on top of that to get us to our penultimate goal here. But here's what we're going to do, and actually maybe you will all have the opportunity to get us to that goal as a special, just because we love you. We're going to leave that Ducky merch up until next Monday, and let's get us to 1,069 goals. And if you get us to 169, I'll get us the rest to get us to 1,420.
So I just want to double check. You said so last year we had 1,000, right?
Yep.
So we have 1,001 now. We
So
beat last year's goal, baby.
We did.
One extra mouth fed, and now you have the opportunity to give us 68 extra mouths fed, which will ultimately give us 419 extra mouths fed to be at 1,420 mouths happily fed by Feeding America and Ducky. So you guys have the drill. You know what to do. Go down below. You got the link. Go make it happen. Grab a hoodie, grab a shirt, buy it if you hate us, and burn it and put it on the internet. Because
tag me. If you burn it, tag me.
Dude, please, tag us and we'll retweet it.
Yeah. Feels like
we'll like it, and then we'll tell you you liked it so everyone knows.
Yeah.
Elon hit
also, if you do
final
buy
thoughts.
Final thoughts as we embark into the wonders and whimsy of the off season. Anyone have something that they're looking forward to most with off season news and festivity?
Okay, so there's two things that can happen. One, refs law continues 100%.
The refs law is only in season. We're not doing off season refs law. I'm going to lay the hammer down right now.
Hold on, this is off season, in season. I'm making just hold on here. Bear with me.
All right. I will let you go.
We have two paths for refs law. One, refs law continues to live on, and the Roughnecks destiny is what it should have been this year, 12-0. Or please, for the love of God, let refs law go away. And that's coming from me because I want to win more games. And I wouldn't mind if you won the same weekend. I don't mind. I don't mind whoever cursed me besides myself with this. That's my final thought. But it was nice being 100% this year, 100% last year, and 90% season one, which again is like 96.6%. But again, who's counting?
What a wonderful statistic. Go around the horn, everybody. Let me hear it.
Ducky?
Well, I ain't got nothing.
Final thoughts.
Oh, please put a team in Canton. Thank you.
Will be nice. James?
I have one thing to say and one thing only. Giddy up.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Giddy up.
Giddy up, baby.
Giddy up. Give the Stallions their flowers. They are
Thorn?
the dynasty, and they are the standard.
Thorn?
Giddy up.
There you go.
Nicholas.
We are the #1 Stallions lovers show.
Yep.
Dude, we probably
Around the Stallions next year?
Dude, around the Stallions 100%, dude.
Luke's going to have some competition, baby.
ATS? All right.
He's the state of the Stallions. We'll be the country of the Stallions.
How about the continent of Stallions? It's just
SWO, baby. Let's go.
Stallions World.
So,
Nick, did I hear your point was giddy up, or did I not give you time to talk? I want to make
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just excited to start doing roster and signing talk. I know this is what's on your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get into the off season. It'll be fun.
Anyway, I think that's going to be about it. Unless someone else something else.
I mean, we can talk about it off air, but what's this? Points?
Off-season
new points.
Off-season points. Yeah, of course. Off-season points. Break it down, Zachy boy.
Season points. Okay. Well, I am going to start off by saying I'm going to give James the most this week, and I'm adding it for the sake of the all season that has been dedication going to and from places and the amount of things he does as of this year. Plus,
I should count up every mile I traveled and get a point for each mile.
What are you going to submit it for reimbursement for PFN's book?
Yeah, ATU points. I have 1,420 point miles to
Yeah,
trade it.
exactly.
James, you'll start the postseason points as we're going to go with it. You'll be the 10-pointer right here, right off the bat. You get with that, but right close behind. I'm going to give 8 points to both Nick and Ducky today to kick things off. Good debate back and forth, I think, on the defensive discussions as well as talks on the MVP award discussion for the UFL MVP coming in. So great stuff. Ref, you and I, we get a crisp lucky 7.
I'll take that. Although,
Lucky 7 today.
does the 7 include the point for me helping the Stallions win? Because again, the title says it has to be true. I'm a good luck charm. They've never lost a game while I'm in it.
For you and Bama 205 and Stevie T, abso-freaking-lutely.
Hell yeah, sign me up. And you know what, Zach? I'm giving you an extra point just for that. Look at us. Look at us at 8.
These guys are the living double it and give it to the next person.
Whatever. 4-way tie at second. James gets to start the off-season with a 2-point gap in front. Can he maintain it? He's never missed a show.
Luke gets 1 for having another ring.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He gets the ring. We'll give him 1 for the ring. 1 for the ring. I like this.
There we go.
3 for 3-peat.
Are we doing that?
Okay.
What are we doing? Let's end the show.
It's only 1 UFL ring.
1 point. This is a UFL show. The past is the past. All right, gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and being dedicated for this show as this whole season. You are all great, not only colleagues, but friends of mine, and I'm glad to be a part of this show with all of you. And for those that have tuned in throughout the season for this first in-season editions of ATU, thank you for making these great shows, especially in the chat. Your comments and everything that has with feedback and discussion online makes this show on Mondays worth our while. And it's been a joy to bring this to you so far. More is ahead. The postseason, we will discuss on how things will be as we go into post/off-season discussion leading into what will be fun and exciting things ahead with showcases, the draft, free agency, possible changes the league's going to have that we may or may not know. You name it. There's a lot that's going to be talked about. We're going to have shows as we come at it, and we'll be keeping you here on the UFL Podcast channel for that when we go live on Mondays or whenever we go live. Maybe we switch it up. We're going to talk about that on behind the scenes. But until then, stick with us on Mondays when we go live, usually, as always, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on this channel. And again, if you're wanting to keep up with these shows, follow us on social at Around the UFL on your favorite social platform, X, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, we're there. And you can follow along with us and follow along with these great content creators and our great men at PFN that are creating excellent content and writings and you name it with inside knowledge that we've got here. James, Nick, the ref writing up, Ducky with our wonderful community engagement, as I always have to say, and join the Discord to follow us along this summer too. For that being said, gentlemen, the ref, Ducky, Nick, for James, for those that have been here over the season with Luke Miller and Jake Ball, I am Zach Kyleman saying so long. And until our next show, which we will have sooner rather than later, stay with us. It's going to be a great ride leading into this offseason and into season 2. Catch you next time on ATU.
Arlington still sucks.